to ministers. Welcome to the interview room. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the interview room, everybody. Good evening on this Sunday evening. So great to have you here with us. As you can tell, I've got my sweetheart, the most beautiful woman on the earth.
You are such a sweetheart. I appreciate that, doll.
Very lucky man. Let's see. Let's give folks a couple more minutes here before we kick off. The algorithm here on YouTube sends out the notifications. Zimbabwe in the house. Chrissy, it's great to see you. Magnolia, TIR buddy, thank you so much for being here. Barbara, Heidi, Casey 32, Miss Marple, thank you for being with us. Ramona from East Hampton. Lulabelle, Nana Lee, Nancy Bennett, Hannah Viking. I love that one. MG, Layla. Aloha, everybody. We got a lot to cover tonight. I brought it my better half, who's got this all figured out. I certainly don't have it figured out. Hi, Maui Girl, our mods, Miss Sophia, Laura, Maui Girl, Mimi J2, and Teresa M. Without you, none of this is possible. We're always so grateful to each and every one of you. Well, we hope you've had a great week. And thank you, Cool Lady, for joining us. And welcome, Mabel from UK, our friends across the pond. We're so grateful. Sweet Swiss Miss.
That reminds me of the hot chocolate that we love so much.
I know you're getting a lot of compliments on your hair tonight, huh?
Y'all are just so kind and sweet. You're boosting my ego, so thank you. I appreciate it. The comments are well appreciated.
Yeah, her hair does look marvelous, doesn't it? I'm very, very lucky. So we've had we've gone through how many pages? 501 pages recently on the Sterns document dump. I got to tell you, and Hun, tell me what's going through your mind, but that is one dude that I am grateful is off the grid here. And
well, at least he's sitting behind bars. Can't do any harm to anybody now. Of course, the damage is done. And, this 500-page document that was just released, yikes, it's full of a lot of stuff. We're going to digest it and bring it to you guys. I think the parts that stood out to us that I think you'll be really interested in is a lot of it has to do with the evidence that was found in Sterns's car. And of course, we know he was driving poor Maddie, already deceased, driving her body before he dumped it.
Yeah.
And
He is a sicko.
yeah, so I think some of that evidence, what is listed here, I think that's new. We also have a look at the data from his Fitbit. Apparently, he was wearing a Fitbit, one of those little health watches,
Yep.
and it
Don't
tracked
get ahead
his
of us. Don't
steps.
get ahead of us yet.
I
Don't get
know.
ahead of us.
I'm just giving people a nice sprinkling of what's to come here. And some other things found in the car that we found surprising. And yeah, so
Yeah, tonight's
no.
going to be an interesting conversation. And of course, we want you to join in the conversation here. And also, there's been some changes taking place. Apparently, Google just bought Patreon. Is that right, Karen?
I don't know about that, but so it's Apple, and Apple is now requiring Patreon. So if you
Apple bought Patreon.
so to download the Patreon app, you have to go to the Apple App Store. And so what they're doing now is Apple is charging 30% more for people that sign up for Patreon going forward from November 1st forward. Now, we want to be very explicit and say that this does not apply to our current Patreon members. If you're already a Patreon member and have that membership, this 30% add-on doesn't apply to you. It's only for memberships going forward. And when we heard about that, we were just like, come on, big tech, enough. You know, it's, we think they operate without guardrails, and obviously they can charge what they want. We're not happy about it. We don't like it. But we want to, obviously, we have to make everybody aware of what is going on with them.
Yeah. So if you at some point decide just to shift back over to YouTube membership, that's great. That's great from our position as well. We just ask one thing, and that's you hit the subscribe button, and that of course you share this out to all of your friends in your social media networks. That means the world to us, because that also kicks the algorithm in, and it keeps it moving. So the other stuff is, a bonus. We do have other stuff over there, but we're also going to start putting a lot more over here on the membership side on YouTube as a result of some of these changes coming. I mean, everybody is just raising their prices. It has nothing to do with us. We have no control over it, nor does any other, channel, any other channels out there. They can't control it either. So Apple has come in again and raised the prices on everything. And so we just want to let you know our price, our cost over here on the membership side on YouTube has not changed since we started this channel 4 years ago. It has not changed, and we're not planning on changing it. So we're grateful that you're here. Okay, so that said, I mean, Karen, you did a tremendous amount of work again this week on these 501 pages. Some of this is information that, there's some stuff in here that's absolutely just weird from this guy. And so let's talk about some of that. Now, we're going to start on page 98. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. So we felt the first 100 pages of this 500 pages, a lot of it was repetitious, little redundant information that is generally speaking about the day that Maddie went missing and all the lead up until her body being found. I should say, just if you're just joining us or if you're not super familiar with some of the facts of this case, Maddie Soto was 13 years old, and it was on Monday, February 26th, when her mom reported her missing. And what you're going to see here with these documents is that the last person to be with her was Stephan Sterns, who is the boyfriend of, or was the boyfriend of the mother. He's referred to a lot in these documents as the stepfather. No, I mean, we know that they were never married. So where if you see it and it says stepfather, just know that it's the mom's boyfriend. And as we kind of alluded to already, a lot of these documents are details about every step that Sterns took from Sunday night at 11:30 when he and Maddie were sent into his room by the mother, Jen Soto, to go to sleep because she said, well, I need sleep. And, we know all that. We can touch upon that. So anyway, these documents show his every move basically from Monday morning, 7 a.m. forward. And so the first 100 pages, a lot of it was repetitious. You're also going to see there's been a lot of redactions. There's a lot of like black blank pages. And so just know we didn't do anything. We're showing you the document as we received it from the state attorney's office. They've disseminated this to the media. So if you wondering why when Chris is scrolling through, you're going to see a black page with nothing on it, it's just the redaction. So we're picking up the story, if you will. This is on page 98, but just setting the stage a little bit. So this is on Wednesday, February 28th. So Maddie was reported missing 2 days prior on that Monday. And we've already seen Jen and Stephan, they made statements to the media. Of course, now in hindsight, we went back, we've seen the body cam footage of their statements to the police. But on this document, on this day, Wednesday, February 28th, the police went to Stephan's parents' house in Northport Police Department. And this is actually from Northport Police Department, what they observed. And Chris, we don't necessarily have to read the whole page, but give us an essence of what police found. Now, mind you, Maddie's body had not been found at this point. She was still missing. Clearly, Sterns was under heavy suspicion. He was the last person to see her. The whole story about how he got her ready in the morning, they were supposed to go to McDonald's. He drops her off a few blocks away from her school. All of that is a lie. We now know all that.
Yep. And well, a couple of things to point out here. If you're not familiar with what they call evidence.com, evidence.com is a system, it's a software system that goes from the police department directly to the courtroom. And so what do I mean by that? It means anything that goes into that system is automatically seen by the prosecution until they get ready to turn it over to the defense. So it's a very sophisticated system, and there are steps that can be taken. So let's say they have a prosecutor on board right away. The prosecutor can be anywhere. I.e., they can be at their office, they can be on their laptop at their home, and if they have the entry code into that particular case, then they automatically can see that. So you'll see right here, it says 28 digital images were later uploaded to evidence.com. In this bedroom where they go over to Sterns's house, they find some pretty disturbing items of essay in nature. And it's a lower torso of a, fake human used for, essay contact. So this guy from the get-go, not only are they downloading his phone on a program called Celebrite, and what Celebrite is when everybody goes to like AT&T or Verizon or whatever, and they say, hey, I want to, transfer all my data over to my new phone. I just went from an iPhone to an Android. Well, they take that and they go to what they call a UFED, UFED. And the store plugs that UFED in. And what it is it transfers all that data over. Well, that UFED is a product from a company called Celebrite. And law enforcement has have UFEDs, but they're a little bit different. They're basically on steroids. And what they can do is they download all the data on that particular phone. And then, of course, from there, it puts it into a software program, and it's really specific. It can show you metadata, times, dates, photographs, videos. I mean, it's broken down very specifically for law enforcement. So in this situation, they already had his phone, or they're pulling his phone, and they're dumping all of that information in to Celebrite. So that's where we get the 35,000. I mean, Karen, can you believe that? 35,000. And I'm going to go up to page 161. What were your thoughts on that when you first heard that, guys? What were your thoughts in the chat? But Karen, what were you thinking?
It's just so sick and disgusting. And your heart just breaks for poor Maddie. I mean, the theme throughout all of this is the adults in Maddie's life failed her. Every single one of them. Her mom, her parent, she has a biological father who was living in Texas. Everybody, the mother, obviously, where it begins and ends. There was a grandmother involved in her life. There are teachers at school. There were friends. And it's like she slipped through the cracks. I mean, it's so disturbing and disgusting what this guy had on his phone. And the father turned over some kind of an external hard drive and that's where they got a treasure trove of just disgusting SA, CP images that he had. And I noticed somebody in chat said, Maddie couldn't be the first victim. Absolutely. We fully agree. This guy was 37 years old when he was arrested. He's now 38. Maddie, the documents show, had been essayed since she was 8 years old. The police found pictures of Maddie showing that. And your heart just breaks as a parent. It's just, oh my gosh. I mean, you just can't imagine. This poor girl suffered so much abuse, SA, at this guy's hands. And you know what? Thank goodness that police have the evidence. Prosecution has the evidence to put this guy where he belongs. Yeah, it's astounding. And there's other things that came up in these documents too that we have a little more light that's been shed on that, and we'll get to that. But
and one of the comments in here, Hun, was, we talk about 35,000 photographs. The way these guys operate, and most recently, I had the opportunity to go to North Carolina recently, and I was asked to give a presentation on this kind of problem. Those of you who know my career background, that's basically what my expertise is. Guys who select children for SA gratification during homicide. And so I have an opportunity a lot of times to travel and to teach. And I had about 200 investigators in this particular class. And one of the things we were talking about, which one of the our guest here and our members in the chat, our subscribers, was, how do you get 35,000 photographs, and how do these folks operate? A lot of times that's part of the game that they play to try to make sure that you're not law enforcement. They trade photographs, and they're of the most horrific in nature. But what's interesting about Sterns is he kept a lot of this in, these, off-site locations, which he had, Karen, what you were talking about, right, that his father had found, and et cetera, that, he had thousands and tens of thousands of
He
photographs.
also had them arranged under folders. So there was a folder with Maddie's name on it
Yes,
with his
exactly.
images.
And what's really cool is a lot of folks aren't aware that they train canines. A lot of Jack Russells, believe it or not, because they're so tiny, and they like to go into small places. A lot of these crooks hide this stuff in the HVAC systems up in their houses. They'll take these disc with all this garbage on it, and they'll put it up into their vents in their heating systems. Well, law enforcement, we've been able to solve that problem, and where's Buddy? Buddy, where are you? But you take a small dog like a Jack Russell, and you train the dog to smell for the metal within those discs and those hard drives, and you put them up in the vents, and those dogs go up in there and they'll alert when they come across something. It's just absolutely pretty cool to see. And I've seen a lot of that at ICAC conferences, Internet Crimes Against Children conferences, where they'll have these little Jacks, these little Jack Russells, and they're the cutest little buttons, and they're doing God's work by getting these devices and finding them. And so the crooks are having a much more difficult time adapting because law enforcement adapted pretty rapidly. So, but here, honey, I'm on page 169 to 191.
Okay,
What
first,
do you want to
yeah,
point out?
so what you're looking at, page 159, that's 159. We're gonna go to 169, but all that is the comings and goings of the father's storage unit in Northport. And what was really interesting, guys, is at one point, police thought perhaps Stearns put Maddie's body in the storage unit. That was in the docs. Obviously, we know that didn't occur. But the storage unit, the comings and goings, and there was always this question of, well, the father kept control over it, but there was a missing key. He had two keys, and one of the keys was missing. And it's still, you read the documents, and it's not crystal clear whether Stearns went back and took anything out, any potential incriminating evidence against him out of that storage unit. It didn't seem that way reading this over. But anyway, that's what you were looking at on that other document where it says Chris Stearns. Chris Stearns is Stephan's father. So that's that. So where we're at right now on starting on page 169, I thought this was really interesting. This is the timeline broken down. And so these black boxes you're looking at is redacted information by police. But on the left-hand side, Chris, you can see, wait, scroll back up there, honey, for a second. So, okay, so this is February 26th is Monday. Maddie wasn't even reported missing by her mother till the afternoon. Remember, after Jen said she waited in the car line or went to school and Maddie never came out. And then they ended up making the report from the mother's place of work, which I believe was an insurance office. Anyway, so if going through this timeline, starting at 7:30 in the morning, oh, you know what? Wait, I'm reading that. They have their date. No, they don't have their date wrong. So, yeah, okay. So this is 7:30 in the morning, the day Maddie was missing, reported missing, and this is what they have now. Stearns is seen on these cameras in his car, and you'll see they've got him like every minute or every 5 minutes, and they have a whole timeline, so they know exactly where he was in his car for the first couple of days.
Yeah, and what Kat says here is so dark and deceitful. We totally agree with you. I mean, so here it is, 7:30 in the morning. Um, Maddie's seen in the car, slumped over, and we've talked about this before. But 7:35, 5 minutes later, so Stearns is on a mission here, and one of the things the prosecution is going to want to show is malice aforethought. And what was his intent? Was his intent to conceal, because it appears here that this child's life, has already been taken, because the police believe at 7:30 in the morning, based on physical evidence. This is physical evidence because they have a photograph of him. He's then seen at 7:35 throwing something in the dumpster, which we later find out, what those items were. And then at 7:50, he leaves the complex with Maddie in the car, makes a U-turn on Church Town Loop and Hunter Park. And this is where he tells the officers this is where he was returning to get his key fob. Allegedly, he forgot his key fob. Now, this goes to show you, as we move further and further into the 21st century, that these traffic cameras and all of these other programs out there are going to become much more difficult to get around. I want to show you a program. Hang on for a second.
While Chris is doing that, it just occurred to me, obviously in these pictures, you're going to be able to see Maddie's body. And that's why they're redacted right now. Obviously, it'll be shown to the jury during the trial.
So this is what they call a real-time crime center, RTCC. Okay. And what an RTCC is it's a area where real time, when you call 911, a lot of agencies have real-time crime centers. And what happens is, let's say you say, I'm at such and such a location, this is what I'm seeing. And if there is a camera nearby, then the real-time crime center can tie into that camera instantaneously. Okay. And this is a company here called Fusus, F-U-S-U-S. And what Fusus does is they make agreements with like schools, with the public, businesses in a community, et cetera. And the cameras cannot be utilized and or engaged unless there's an active emergency and they have an agreement. They have an MOU, a memorandum of understanding with that business. So let's say, for an example, there was a high-profile situation like Maddie's case, and there happened to be a couple of businesses that had outdoor cameras. Well, law enforcement can go to those people and say, look, we'd like to access your cameras real time. And that's what Fusus does. And it's an agreement, it's a partnership agreement with the community. But it provides real-time access to cameras within inside of a community, and it ties public cameras and private cameras together. And so like traffic cameras, LPR, license plate readers, and those types of things, it ties them all together. And so in a situation like that, where you have a missing child, et cetera, you can have the real-time crime center, RTCC, come up live. And let's say they have a jurisdictional, an intersection of some sort. They can look in their system and say, hey, we've got 5 agreements with 5 businesses. Okay. And they can activate those cameras if it's an emergency, and, such as this with this child, for an example. And so in this case, they went back later, obviously, and they got these types of cameras, and they got the LPR data here, the Florida tag, 1 yellow Lincoln 82. And they went back and they said, holy cow, here's that tag. Well, they can put that tag into another system. Okay, and that tag, that system will go and grab everywhere that tag was seen, and it will print out and put up instantaneously in front of you where that tag is being seen. Okay. So sophisticated technology, and Orlando has it because of the high tourism, rental cars and a lot of stuff down there. So thank goodness they had access to that, because look how many times this tag got flagged. If we go back up here, the key fob, him seeing at the complex, but as soon as that car hit the main street, look at 1, 2, 3, 4, and it started taking pictures of that car. And thank goodness, and the technology was able to nail it instantaneously. So it was pretty cool. So within 39, 8:39, it hits it. 8:30, 8:40, it hits it. 8:41, it hits it. So he's moving. And as he's moving, the system is picking him up, and they're able to go back and obviously pin it down. So thank goodness for this, for this case, that they were able to do that. So, hon, I didn't mean to go off into a tangent there, but
no, it's okay. We're showing everybody, about 30, 25 pages of every minute. Look, 9:02, 9:02, 41 seconds. I just think to myself, okay, how interesting is this going to be for the jury when the prosecution presents this at trial? You got to love technology regarding this. This is him, and it's his car, and, they have his every move. And so they're able to put this timeline together, and it seems pretty solid evidence to me.
Yeah, it looks solid, and everything is based off of, again, this Florida tag, 1 yellow Lincoln 82. And they nailed him. They nail him. And all of this stuff is, solid. It's solid evidence. What's he going to say? There he is driving in one of these. You can actually see him pretty clearly here. Well, it's not too clear from this photograph, but the photo is a lot clearer, and they're able to basically, pin down his every move. So I'm going to go up to page 191. Look at how all of this just starts to come on. And then,
it's cool stuff.
And they see him moving, right? On camera in the parking garage, putting Blank's body in the trunk. So they actually have him moving the body and putting it into the trunk. And they got a picture of this. Man, that's good stuff. Yeah. So my heart just breaks for this child. But you know what? God left a witness, and it's this particular system that nailed him. Even when he switched cars, notice he switched cars up here.
Well, is that the next day?
Well, it's
or later
too.
Yeah.
9:44 at 9295 Sam John Yellow Pole.
And they have his every move up until March 1st, when Maddie's body was found.
Yeah, they have nailed him really well. Really well.
Yeah. Do you want to go on to page 217? Should we keep moving?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to go through all this so everybody can see. This is how well they've got him on LPR. Now, LPR is license plate readers. Okay, LPR data. And there's a couple of systems out there that are able to, but look at, they got him moving. They got him moving. I love it. 08 39. I mean, he's toast. Put some toast in the chat. We have an emoji of toast.
Yeah.
But I just think it's cool. This is cool stuff. Look at here. They got the tire. He's got the tire on in this particular one.
Yeah.
This gives a better time frame at 2:12.
Well, and also I don't want to jump ahead, but there's a witness who saw him on the side of the road. I think that's been pretty widely reported with the tire iron. So they have a lot more details on that.
Yeah.
So do you want to
I'm going up to
scroll
page
through?
217.
Yes.
They even got him at night. I agree. I mean, in the other car too. Man, I love this stuff.
Hey, don't you wish every case had this?
I'll tell you, they did it right. They did it right down there. They did it right.
Yeah.
Okay, 217. All right.
Yeah. So what we're going to be looking at next is it's an incident report. It's part of the information gathering and the investigation. And this is from Orange County Sheriff's Office. And they went back and spoke with one of the roommates. Now, remember, Jen Soto had this 4-bedroom condo, and she rented out 2 rooms. There was a roommate, and then one roommate, and then a second roommate, another woman who had a 15-year-old son who was living in this house, if you guys can even believe that. And of course, we know Maddie didn't even have her own room. They had this makeshift space in the living room with like a partition set up and a bed and a desk and a computer. And this poor girl never had any privacy. She didn't have her own space. And, Sterns was off and on living at that house. Of course, we know he had bedroom number 4. That's where Maddie was last seen alive, in there with him. It's just so heartbreaking. But anyway, this next piece in these documents on page 217, it talks about the comments that one of the roommates gave to one of the police officers gathering the information. But it just speaks to how just sick and deranged this Sterns is. I don't even know. I can't use that word, deranged. Just what a sick puppy is, to say.
Well,
And Chris, I'm going to have you read this. It's too small for people to be able to see on screen.
Okay. February 29, 24, I reviewed the contents of Stephan's phone alongside Detective Shine. In addition to observing the essay to blank, I noticed Stephan had a folder in his phone gallery labeled blank, which contained 90 images that were captured of an unaware female. Upon further examining these images, I identified the female in the images as Stephan's roommate. The photographs, video, blank, were captured in her bedroom and in the bedroom while she was naked.
Bedroom and bathroom. Bedroom and a bathroom. Yeah.
Okay. And
unbeknownst to her.
And this is why they show the photograph of his phone up against the bedroom door. And it looks like the camera, and this is probably how he was able to capture these photographs. But can you imagine that now? All of a sudden discovering that this guy has a file about your particular life, on top of, the child. So he really was obsessed with all of this, inappropriate behavior, and to the point where he probably thought about it. He reminds me of Garish. Garish thought of essay and the P word just 24 hours, 365. And he had over 500 victims in his time. This guy is one sick puppy. And it's kind of crazy because when you hear his phone call with his family, it's as if nothing has ever gone on in this guy's life. He is such a chameleon, hiding all of this internally. This is why I always say I've never met somebody who's been fixed in terms of recovered from an RSO registered SO. You can't fix them. You can't fix them. We got to have Larry back again, Dr. Larry Simons. He just had knee surgery, but Larry, he knows the get into the head of these guys at extreme levels. So where do you want to go from here? 230?
Yeah, let's go page 230, 236. So this is what police found when they processed his car. Now, when I say his car, I'm talking about that 2010 Lincoln, the first car that Maddie's body was put into. And if we start at page 230, if you go over to that, it talks about in detail. So they have the narrative form, which is what you're looking at right now, right? Like they're describing everything that's in the car that when they process the car. And then a few pages later, they list out the evidence list. So you can kind of see it a little bit easier that way. And I just thought it'd be very interesting to have Chris go through this evidence list and tell us what you think these items, because there's a laundry list of items in this car. I mean, it's a lot of stuff in this car. And, Chris, you've processed so many of these scenes related to the murder, right? The cars that suspects have used. And I want to get your take on the list. Now, I think it's actually easier scrolling to, let's see. I'm just trying to find the page where it has it. I mean, we can go through the narrative side right there where it lists it. And then further down in the documents, they come back to that evidence list and give you a few more clues about it.
Well, there's a couple things going on, obviously. The first thing I want to say is really, I think the agency here did an amazing job. Very thorough, extremely professional. They have the resources, and this is the type of result you get when you take your time and you make sure that you cross the T's and dot the I's, because you only get one chance. You get one chance. And because the defense they're going to attack every angle possible. And when they run out of angles or themes, then they're going to attack the police. And they're going to attack the procedure. They won't necessarily attack the evidence unless it's DNA, but they'll attack the collecting process here. Okay. And so in this situation here, they have laid out not only the photography, okay, but a lot of times whenever you're going to collect something, you not only have to say where you got it, but you also have to measure it. You have to see if there's any metadata connected to it. And then you have to, document it. So we used to call bag and tag it. Okay. So once you measure it, once you photograph it, once you bag and tag, and all those little markers have to correlate back to that evidence collection list. And in this situation, they were extremely, extremely thorough. So we learned there's a red stain on the front door jamb. Now, the reason they put the red stain is because they can't come out and say it's blood. because you don't know what it is, okay, until the lab comes back and says, this is blood. So a lot of times officers or, evidence techs will use language like this, a red stain, or it appeared to be blood, consistent with what appears to be blood. Okay. And they can get that through a whole bunch of different ways. Obviously luminol, and of course there's all kinds of other chemicals that you can use. And you can use what they call an ALS, which is an alternate light source. And you wear these funky little glasses and you have this laser, and, the evidence tech go in there, and anything that has an enzyme in it, sometimes you can spray luminol in there and it will glow. But so will soda pop. So in this situation here, they have a Coca-Cola can. So could that have been, soda of some sort? They won't know until they go in there with a swab and they wipe it, and then they address where it came from. So in this,
Chris, let me jump in. Somebody in chat very
Mhm.
accurately, and thank you for whoever said it, pointed out that this car was used by his parents as a pet ambulance,
Yep.
which makes it even more interesting to try to separate out, okay, what was junk in there from a pet ambulance to murder evidence. That's what makes this interesting.
Yeah.
And, it says there's even it says right there, paperwork bearing the victim's mother's name. Okay, that's Stephan's mom's name. Okay, so yeah, obviously. But there's some other things, and we'll see that in a couple pages on page 242 when things are listed out, and then they can really kind of ferret out what is here and what is like stuff from being a pet ambulance to was this used in Maddie's murder. That's the part of this I find interesting.
Yeah, a charger and a middle school name tag bearing the victim's name was in the pocket below the center dashboard. So they're already getting indication that the victim had at some point, somehow her name and that tag got into that car. Okay, remember the suspect's goal is to keep the victim out of that car, and it's an animal ambulance. Okay, and that's all we ever use it for. Well, okay. And so that blood in of itself, right here, see 3 areas were swabbed and tested for the possible presence of blood. Okay, using a presumptive test, the results were negative for the 3 areas. A positive and negative control was conducted in a test, and the controls were worked properly. So it could have been, again, we go back to soda. It looks like blood, may not be blood. They positively tested it, and it was not blood. It came back negative. Okay, but here they use black powder. We call that LWAP, which is powder backwards. Okay, and Life Without Patrol, Red WAP, Red WAP, which is powder backwards. And so they threw black powder all over this thing looking for fingerprints, and they lifted all of these, 30 latent fingerprint cards. All 30 of these cards would be sent in to the feds or whoever they have at their lab as their fingerprint analysis expert. But looks like they picked them up. The gas tank door. You may not think about, why do you want to go out and throw powder on the push button little door for the gas tank? Well, what if he says, hey, I wasn't even, my mom drives that car. I never blah, blah, blah. Or he gives a lie about, I put gas in the car. Well, you want to verify that. Either way, if it's a lie, you want to verify it. And if it's the truth, you want to verify that too. That's your job. You're only seeking the truth. The one thing, remember, investigators, a really good investigator like these folks here, in my opinion, is you don't investigate people. You investigate information. This is a lot of information here. It's a lot of information coming at you. And so now we get into, these items here, swabs, these are the blood swabs, trunk mat, a pillowcase, hair from underneath the passenger seat. What if it's her hair? And that kind of thing. If it's animal hair, etc. Filter from the rear passenger seat. And this is one of the things that a lot of folks forget. I don't see it in this particular list here, but hopefully they took the air filter on all of the vehicles involved. Why is that important, Karen? Why do you think?
Well, a vehicle filter would potentially contain trace elements from the outside, whether it's like pollens or, stuff that comes off trees or, things blowing out there. And it could probably go back to putting a car in a certain area or
Exactly.
not same
Exactly.
thing. But in this case, I think we know I believe we even have him. I think there's video evidence of him where he was on the side of the road with the tire, and nearby is where Maddie's body was found because
Yeah,
they pull camera footage from that. So maybe they don't need that in this particular case. It seems like they've got a lot of evidence on his every move in a small window of time.
absolutely. And so what you have, to your point, is in a situation like this is what we would call a body dump. Okay. And you have multiple crime scenes here. You have potentially the house. You have the movements within one car to the next from one car. So you have the house is one, the first car is two, the second car is three, the trunk is four, the body dump is five. Each of these crime scenes and each one of those locations is a crime scene, and they have to be processed the exact same way. Now, the reason that filter in that car potentially could be really good evidence is, to your point, if there's pollen or if there's anything, that's, connected to that crime scene, i.e. where the body was ultimately found, you can get a botanist to come back in. And believe it or not, you can even get DNA sometimes from the pollens that come into those air filters, and you can match those pollens to that geographic region. And I've had many body dumps up in the mountains where you get a suspect who says, "Hey, my car wasn't even near, I wasn't there," and we pull the air filter, put it in a bag, send it to the lab, and then have these professionals look at it and say, "Hey, here's this pollen that is, connected to this geographic region and these types of plants." And lo and behold, those types of plants and those types of things are around where the body was found. And now you can take it a step further. I mean, as you know, I had the case where it was a palm tree, and we were able to match the same palm tree from, the seedlings of one palm tree to the next, and we were able to match it. And lo and behold, we nailed the guy. So go ahead.
So I think if we go to page 242,
Mm-hmm.
we've got the vehicle inventory. So what was found in which parts of the car? Front seat, back seat, passenger. This stuff was very intriguing to me. And I think all of you will find some of this pretty interesting too. And I'm really curious because I haven't talked to Chris about all the exact inventory to get his perspective on this, but I think he's going to shed a little bit of light on this. So yeah, you're in the right spot. So vehicle inventory says front driver door, a container of hand wipes. Okay, that's not too unusual. But let's look at what's on the list here. And this goes on for about 7 pages. So let's make sure we go through all this. And Chris, you tell me what jumps out at you. There's a couple things that jump out at me.
Okay.
Especially when we've got these latex gloves. He's got knit gloves, latex gloves. Okay. But if we continue to go to the next page, we've got especially what jumped out at me, the front passenger seat had a dog leash around the headrest.
Where's that one, hon?
Right in the middle of the page, right there, front passenger seat. It says empty vape box, napkins, vet business card, dog leash around the headrest. And the police are much more descriptive of what this is a little bit further down.
Okay.
Now, don't forget, Maddie, her body was in the front seat, slumped over. He was driving her around for a couple of hours, at least. So when I saw that there was a black dog leash around the headrest, I thought, wow, was that really just used for the pet business? Or did that somehow, heartbreakingly come into contact with Maddie, that he had her in the front seat driving her around?
Yeah, I mean, that would obviously go into the question category, right? Yeah,
Yes.
when you're interviewing the suspect, because you have the victim potentially, and the police believe early on at 7:30 in the morning that she's not with us. That somehow she's just kind of, slumped over or propped over. Yeah, I mean, to your point, of course, the defense is going to argue, well, those are just, dog accessories to like seat belts for dogs and cats and et cetera, animals that are being transported. But was he sick enough to utilize this, dog leash around the headrest, kind of wrap it around her, upper torso area to kind of maintain, a perspective of, projecting that she was with us when in fact she wasn't. So yeah, that's pretty fascinating. Also, the other thing here is, there's a lot of stuff in this car, which is usually a signal for disorganization, right? I mean, you have just stuff in here. I mean, back scratcher, phone charger, okay, normal stuff, hairbrush, flashlight, tactical case with flashlight and compass, blade attached to handles. So one of the things we do as an exercise is called Who's in My Car? Okay. You can learn a tremendous amount about a personality just by, seeing the type of items in a car and the type of structure of those items within a car. So if if for an example, you had all of these items, within small containers and they were very organized, within inside of the car versus just thrown, like crap and garbage, on the floor and of itself. Well, you get two personality types with maybe the same type of items. Okay. All by understanding how they're structured within the car. Like, for an example, why do people carry umbrellas in cars? Okay. What thoughts, Karen?
In case it rains,
Okay,
the obvious.
that's the easy answer, right? Right? That's the obvious answer. Okay. But you see, an umbrella is a type of item, okay, that you are preparing for that rain. Okay. So your thought process is, oh, it might rain. I need an umbrella. Okay. So in the personality of somebody, through experience, we've learned through sad experience that it's the nature and disposition of all men or women, okay? If they forget that umbrella and they get stuck in the rain, okay, they'll make a new decision to not ever let that happen again. So they buy an umbrella, okay, and they put it in their door frame or wherever so that as time goes on, it rains, they go, oh, I have my umbrella. So they're prepared. That would be an organized offender, okay? Ted Bundy was an organized offender. He took off the door handle in his Volkswagen.
And
Okay.
just to be clear, you're not saying that people who have umbrellas in their cars are potential criminals.
No,
That's
not
not
at
what
all.
you're saying.
No,
I'm just clarifying that.
not at all. Because but people learn, right? Behavior. We learn to make sure that we're prepared. Okay, that we're prepared. So, the fact that all of these items in here, you go food utensils, well, okay, does this person eat a lot of fast food? And if so, do they get them from the, in the bag and they don't use them, so they throw them in the glove box? Okay, well, that tells us a little bit about that person's personality. How about the type of music? Okay, we teach detectives, turn on the radio. Okay, if you're getting head banging music or if you're getting symphony, okay, that's two types of, moods and two types of potential personalities. But here, a window squeegee, a piece of plastic. Well, why not throw it away if it's just garbage? Okay, vape boxes. Well, why not throw them away? Okay, you see, this is a careless personality. But now, if you contrast that with folders of 35,000 photographs, what's the mindset here? Okay? The mindset shows us that this type of stuff like this, okay, is really not the focus of this individual's every single day. Okay? Because the focus of every single day takes us to this idea that says, oh no, the secret life, you can't find this stuff. This is the public persona that you're looking at here and his priorities. The public persona is, you know what? Tan blanket with white stains, another umbrella, okay? Black jacket, blue hat, orange bag, towel, dog harness, napkins, receipts, flags, okay? And those receipts can tell you a lot of information as well. It can tell you, not only habits, not only eating habits, but, shopping habits. You'll be surprised. More dog leashes, but then you get to this one right here, bath mat.
That one jumped out. That one had my brain going. I thought, why on earth are you bringing a bath mat into your car? Just questioning that. And we don't know the time that Maddie was taken out of the house and put in the car. We really don't have anything solid on that so far.
Yeah,
there were actually 2 bath mats found.
Yeah. So bath mats for the dogs. Okay, if we apply them to the dogs, okay. What if it's the bath mat from the house and in the house? And we don't know that yet, right?
Yeah, we're not saying it came from the house. I'm just saying it's like, what's out of character, from this list? What jumps out at you, right? I mean, the latex gloves, that's always going to be concerning, right? We don't know. But a bath mat is generally from the house. It doesn't say a dog bath mat. So yeah, we don't know. These are just questions that we're raising.
Okay. So, and this is also something that's very interesting here. So you have receipts on the rear passenger floorboard, and you have receipts and the rear driver's floorboard. Okay. And I think there's another one up here. You have receipts on the front passenger floorboard. You have, let me get up here. I think there was one more, but I may be wrong. Reusable bags. Okay, well, either way, you've got receipts all over this car. Okay, so what you would expect is somebody that gets something and they just do this. They get it or they do this, or they get it or they do this. Okay, that is a very disorganized individual. That is somebody that's just kind of scatterbrained. Okay, because they're literally just throwing their receipts all over the car. Okay, meaning those receipts don't have value. What had value, what was connected to those receipts. Okay, but to show that you still, value that product that you bought or you ate or something to that effect, you really don't care. It becomes more of a trash truck. Okay, and that's a really fascinating point, because how did they discover her backpack? Where did he take her backpack? This is a learned behavior. Okay. So where did he take her? He threw her out like a piece of trash. Okay. And his car or their car, whoever this person is, and by the way, it is learned behavior. Okay. If this is the ambulance that the parents or whoever, okay, then you would expect somebody within inside of that circle of influence has modeled that behavior. Okay. And when you start seeing simple things like this, rear passenger floorboard receipts, one latex glove, rear driver's floorboard receipts, reusable bags, zipper pouches, cables, okay, juice bottle, just trash. Okay. Well, Maddie becomes trash. And this is why I would submit to you why he is just so nonchalant about this in the call. You see, he had never personalized this child. Maddie was never personalized. We get through here now on, first aid kit, various car equipment, Lincoln emblem. These are things that came off. A towel, a white rope. We don't know, what that's all about. More bath mats, more umbrellas. Okay.
Now, let's not forget, this is in the trunk. This is where Maddie's body was put.
Right.
And so these are all things that, could have aided in that. Again, another bath mat. Now, could it be a dog bath mat? Maybe.
More receipts, black trash bags, unopened gloves, red hoodie, blue puffer jacket, CD cases, soccer ball, blue bin, glove box, one round Lincoln emblem, car manual registration, glasses, piece of metal, dust rag, behind the shifter nail clipper, glasses with case, area between the passenger seat, one latex glove, napkins, face mask, notebook and pen. Okay. Now, this notebook and pen, this would be an item of organization. Okay. You're going to create a list. Okay. You want to remember something. Those types of items like this. You see how the personality within inside of this car, or whoever's driving this car, and if it's him or if it's the parents, whoever, there is a tremendous amount of disconnect here. There's a lot of disconnect going on here. Okay. And if this is hygiene for the animals or whatever, hey, this is also as simple as this receipt is, okay, that receipt is critical. Karen, what did Josh Jenkins buy at Home Depot?
So people may not know who Josh Jenkins was, but he was a 15-year-old boy in Vista, California, who killed his grandparents, his parents, and his sister. And he had purchased an axe from Home Depot, the nearby Home Depot. Well, he actually unbelievably, and this, by the way, happened back in the 90s, mid 1990s in Southern California. He killed the parents and the grandparents, and then he takes the father's car and he takes his 10-year-old sister, and they drive to Home Depot, and he goes in and he buys an axe, brings the sister back to the condo where he uses the axe to unalive the sister. I mean, horrific stuff. And then he set the condo on fire and drove off, and they got him. I mean, it was one of the more horrific cases in San Diego County for sure in that time period.
And that receipt was critical, right? Because it showed the time he purchased it, the moment he purchased it. And when everybody went back and looked at the video, they see him with his final victim, his little sister, stepsister. And he purchased the axe, which he ends up slaughtering the entire family with this axe, including the little girl that he's buying it with. Now, this is why I'm saying that the fact that these receipts are thrown all over the car now, that may not have nothing to do with the homicide, but it has everything to do with the type of personality, okay, that is doing that. That they're just throwing their receipts all over the place because there is no value system connected to the items connected to that receipt. Okay. If it's a consumption, i.e. food or whatever, okay, well, then you may even get the bottle, the juice bottle just tossed into the back. Okay. The whole car becomes this piece of, like a trash can of some sort. And when I saw the photographs, that immediately told me a lot about that personality. And the fact then that he would move her from the front seat, you see, that was about visibility, but it was more about she's just a piece of garbage. And I'm going to move her and put her into the trunk. Okay. And I'm going to put her on top of all this other garbage that I'm just kind of used to. Okay. And so what he did is he depersonalized her even after he murdered her.
Well, and the other thing too that isn't lost here is the fact if this is a pet ambulance car, I mean, guys, the dog lived. Maddie didn't. To
Good
Chris's point of how obviously the alleged killer's treating his victim like trash, but he didn't take his girlfriend's car, he didn't take Jen's car, he took the pet ambulance. And to Chris's point, you know that's why I, after reading all this and hearing about the details, I mean, to me, she felt like the throwaway girl. And I did a couple stories on this. The links are below after the show if you care to read more about it. It's on our blog. But it's just from start to finish, this case is nothing but horribly heartbreaking at every turn. And now we're in the car and we have the list of things. And, that's a great point, Chris. All this trash and stuff is in the trunk, and, her body is going in there and he's driving around with her. I mean, what do you say? Every single adult failed her around her, beginning with the mother that let the boyfriend into the home and into their lives. Now, another point I want to make with this is not a complete list of everything. So the way this document, these 500 pages are set up, in 200 more pages from now, we go back to the evidence checkout list. So that is something that the police do to make sure that they've got every piece of evidence from the car and the chain of custody is correct, and then they store it in evidence. And there's a few more surprising things that are listed on that. It's about 200 pages away from where we are right now. So maybe we can jump ahead to a couple of other places that these, for what the documents show. One of them is the bank statements, which that's probably pretty standard operating procedure at this point in conducting a murder investigation. So we see the subpoena that police did for Sterns's bank statements and his financials. My guess is they want to connect that somehow to the CP and these images, highly disturbing images that he's got.
Right.
Because that opens up a whole nother set of potential charges if they have that.
I'm
So
going to go up to page 355.
yeah, that's right, 355. And then I'm just going to kind of highlight after that, we're going to go to Jen Soto's written statement to police and Stephan Sterns' written statement to police. That I found just really interesting too. It's one thing to hear them talk on video. It's another thing to see, their lies written out on this police report. I thought that was interesting. So yeah, so right now we're going through all this redacted photos, part of the case. And again, we're going to get to page 355. I got to get there too.
Okay,
And we don't have the results. They have not included the results of these financials or the bank statements. It's just showing that police subpoenaed the banks to get this information. I have a feeling that information probably takes a long while to compile, and hope comes out in trial or even potentially sooner if there is anything substantive there. But I thought we could mention it and just, as another point here.
Yeah, so they're looking for, to your point, they want a paper trail and a money trail, potentially for a lot of maybe the SA stuff, right? The purchasing of, like the fake torso, situation, right? That's found at the house. Any items that, may be related to luring and grooming, those types of things. So the financials, any wire transfers, those are going to be important to kind of nail down again, going into this guy's head. Hey, not that any of us want to be there because we don't, but again, if he's disorganized or in which I would submit to you, even though he tried to cover this up, he is a scatterbrain. What he knows best and what he is good at is keeping his mouth shut and lying. He is a master manipulator. But again, think about his target. His targets are children. So he probably has no interpersonal skills around adults or normal people. Okay. You would have nailed him in 30 seconds, Karen. Any woman probably in this chat would have nailed this guy in a couple of seconds and gone, that guy is creepy. That guy is weird. The fact that he worked where he worked, around children, thousands of daily children, we don't even know what those photographs are going to be. Are they photographs of kids, that he ran across, in his employment situation? Those are the kind of things, did he use specific type of cameras? Did he use, concealed cameras? Did he use, whatever, right? That's where the banking stuff is going to come in and play a significant, role here. And that's why, Babs say, creeper alert, antennas would have gone up immediately. Exactly, Babs. And I mean, Karen and I, we've had this just long-standing, look. We'd look at each other and she'd go like that, and I'd be like, yeah, okay, I'm with you. But remember the guy at the Del Mar Fair? And would you share that story with everybody? I mean, you don't have to tell them all the details, but
I'm going to let you tell the story because it really shows that, once a sharp detective, always a sharp detective. I mean, Chris's radar has been on these guys for 40 years. And, even retired from police work, that radar is ever sharp as ever. I mean,
and I deal
yeah,
with these guys every day, even today.
Yeah, Chris is really excellent at, if we're in a crowd situation, it can be anywhere. In this case, this was the Del Mar Fair years ago. He has a wonderful ability to spot the guy who is it's his DLR, doesn't look right, and some weird or off, something physically. And I don't mean physically, I mean behaviorally. So if we're in a crowd and we're with our family, we're not paying attention necessarily to all the people walking around, right? We're with our kids or grandkids or whatever. He has the ability to see and observe in real time, size it up real quick, and be able to discern, is this guy a threat or offbeat, or do I need to protect my family or something like that? So we were at Del Mar Fair. We were in a huge crowd, and Chris said, hey, watch out for that guy. And I don't remember what the guy looked like or whatever. He was dressed enough off from the rest of the crowd where he stood out. And I'll let you tell the rest of that story.
So you know how they have these hypnotists, right, at these fairs and stuff, and they're hysterical. Okay. Well, Karen and I were at this show. We were watching this guy, the hypnotist, and he had all these people up there. And I just happened to catch a guy out of the corner of my eye. And I looked over and I noticed he was not paying attention to the hypnotist, but rather there were 3 or 4 teenage girls in front of him. And he kept looking down at their body parts. And then he would just 100% engage visually these 3 or 4 young teenagers. And so I told Karen, I said, hey, keep an eye on this guy just a second. And so she was now watching him, and there had to be at least 400 or 500 people in this crowd. I mean, it was packed. But this guy just did not look right. And so what I did is I went over to the side and I positioned myself to where I had a straight shot visually to where I could see this guy. And you can imagine what he was doing standing behind these girls. And I thought, bingo, got him. And so I went and I did one of these things to Karen, keep an eye on him real fast. And I went and I saw a deputy, a sheriff, and I walked up to him. I said, hey, we've got in California, it's called 314. Okay. Or basically, surprise, one of those kind of guys. And I said to the PD guy, I said, hey, that guy there, we got a 314 going down here. And he was exposing himself, standing behind these teenagers. And so the sheriff walked over and looked down, and boom, he's witnessing the whole thing. So long story short, the cavalry comes in and swoops the guy up, and the guy is butt naked, with a coat from the waist down. Okay. I mean, DLR, right? Talk about does not look right. And so they hook him up, haul him away. Karen and I high five each other, and she turns to me, she goes, what? And it was like, I don't know. I mean, it's just, you women have this gift. And if those girls would have turned around, obviously they would have had it, in of itself. Okay. But for some reason, God's given me this gift that, it just happens. It just happens. And, when we see stuff like this with Stephan, and we go, okay, well, yeah, they're just kind of going after his bank records, and, what do the receipts really mean in the car, et cetera, et cetera. Well, remember, they're investigating the information. They're not investigating the person. And in that situation, I saw the clothing, the coat didn't look right. 300 or 400 people watching this guy. He's not paying any attention to it. And the math just kind of lined up. And that's where this math here is kind of lining up. As simple as it sounds, the receipts, the disorganization, the enabling of the parents. Well, son, it's great to hear from you. Oh, by the way, did you know you had 35,000 photographs on your phone? Okay, talk about a malfunction. Okay, in parenting. Okay, and by the way, I have my own philosophies on that. It is learned behavior in many ways, not necessarily to that degree, but he didn't wake up one day and all of a sudden discover that he had a problem with inappropriate materials. He woke up one day and realized that, hey, there's a lot of fuel here and I have access to this fuel. Well, how did that all come about? Okay, where does that all come about? So I'm going to go to page 423, hon.
Yes. So we're coming to, as I mentioned earlier, written statements by Jen Soto, hers is first, about what happened the day that her daughter was missing, and then a statement by Sterns. Now, I am including this because my question is for Chris. And it might be a very simplistic question, but it occurred to me, so maybe it would occur to you guys too. And I'll wait till Chris gets there. Yeah, you're almost there. Page 423. So this is her statement. This is mom. This is Madeline's mom. And we now know it's a complete lie. Okay. She says in the first line, around 8 a.m., I saw Maddie getting ready for school. Okay. And the date of this was it's February 26th, the day she was reported missing. So my question is this considered a false police report? What did she know at the time? What did she know? It's the old question. What did she know? And when did she know it? Because this is just a lie. And so my question is there any penalty for this? Was it a deliberate lie to police on her statement? Chris, what's your thought?
So there's a couple of things here. Obviously, the one is the signature bar down, or the signature slot here says, I swear, affirm, and above attachment
Mhm.
statement are correct and true. So what the question's going to be, what's her intent when she wrote this? Okay. And then the other question is, as the investigation unfolded, do they have enough to arrest her for, accessory after the fact? At the time she writes this, how much knowledge does she have? And does she find out later and then kind of, do the curly shuffle and start covering? It says, but today around 8 a.m., I saw blank getting ready for school, obviously her daughter. I'm not sure what time they departed. So it sounds like she sees them together because she uses the word they. It sounds like, they departed, but she wasn't sure of the time, but it certainly does sound like she knew they left together. Okay. They departed. Stephan Sterns took her to school and dropped her off. Now, the question obviously is, was she told that? Did she know that for sure? Did he tell her that later, which later on, her statement is, well, he told me that. Okay. And, but I'm not sure what time they departed. That is a very specific statement about a known event. Okay. She just doesn't have the time down, but she knows for sure they left together. Okay. Took her to school, dropped her off to school on top of the boulevard between Town Center Boulevard and Hunters Park Lane around 8:30, 8:45, very specific. She never made it to school, generic. I went to school around 4 p.m. To pick her up. Um, and that in of itself is very detached. It's but this is early on again. Okay. But usually when you get this emotional bond of using her name in the very first sentence and then a disattachment as the paragraph goes on, okay, again, we go back to the receipts type of problem, the trash, okay, there's really not a connection here. Okay. There's really not this tight connection going on here.
And
Uh,
I love what people are saying in chat. They're saying the use of the word departed is strange
Great
word to
point.
use. That's a great point because I didn't even catch that the first time we looked at this.
Great point. Absolutely. And then she puts, I went to school around 4 p.m. as if she's saying, I'm not sure if she went to school. Okay. She goes, I went to school around 4 p.m. Well, to pick her up. Okay. But she's not really saying, she should have been at school because I was supposed to pick her up around 4 p.m. or something that, something more personal, more bonding, more connecting. This is a very impersonal statement for your daughter who is evaporated. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines of my daughter's missing.
I think for me, it's the first sentence. I saw clearly that says Maddie blocked out getting ready for school. No, she didn't. She was in bed. She was asleep. Stearns came in and woke her up sometime closer to 10. And then the rest of this is what he said he did.
Yeah.
So that's what jumped out at me.
Yeah, it's a lie. It's not truthful. And she later admits that.
Right.
Okay. But at the time they're getting this statement, remember, law enforcement doesn't know exactly what they're dealing with. I searched the area, went to my mother's office to look for Maddie, and could not find her. Very impersonal. Okay. There's not a panic here. There's no panic going on here of a missing child. We're not seeing that. Now, are there drugs on board or this other stuff? Okay. I don't know. Okay. I don't know. And this is his statement, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah, it is. It's in his writing as well. And you know what? It's so that first sentence, all I could think of was uh, Steve Johnson from the Cold Case Foundation.
Yeah.
You know how we've had him on our show many times, and it's like, the people who tend to have committed some kind of offense, they don't use like complete sentences. They're like, and again, I think it's a distancing technique. He starts his off dropped of about a block. I mean, that's not even, he may mean dropped off about a block or so from school, right? So he's trying to provide the least amount of words and information of what his cover story is.
Yeah. And I was just looking at the times real fast. So he puts 8:25 to 8:40. She's either mimicked or parroted a comment and or information presented to her because she says 8:30, 8:45. Now, are they writing these next to each other? Hopefully not. They're separated from each other. He identifies himself as a father, as the father, which he's not.
He's not even the stepfather, let alone the
No,
father.
right. And she's identified as the mother here. Okay. He's the boyfriend.
Well, it says code, so that could have been written in by a law enforcement employee
Well,
that
you hand this to them as they fill this out.
yeah,
And
but
they
she's not going to know what the code means.
know, but typically they're going to ask, what do I put? What is the code? And he'll say mother or father or whatever. Okay.
Mhm.
But yeah, you're right. It could have been the cops put that in there. But that looks like the same writing. They look very consistent. Look at the R, the pull. Anyway, if he wrote it, he's identified himself as the father. If he hadn't, then the cops identified him as a father, but I find that problematic. Dropped off, just like you said, very, again, unattached. There's no attachment here. None. A block or so from school, sometime between 8:25, 8:40, turned around and headed back towards town. Very limited information here. Turned around, headed back towards town. Turned around from what? From where? Why did you turn around? I watched in my rearview mirror as she made her way in the direction of school. So he's disassociating himself from a personal, I'm watching her go to school. Well, no, I'm leaving and I'm watching her in my mirror. Okay. So again, it goes back to the trash. She's in my rearview mirror. She's not with me anymore. Okay. Just a piece of trash. She's gone. And he even associates that by putting her in the rearview mirror. Okay.
Yeah, and look, he says she was busy searching through her backpack for something, it seemed to still be moving towards the school. So I carried on with my day. There couldn't be any more, I'm done with her, right? there couldn't be any more cold, distant, right?
Well, this is interesting here because he has brought the backpack into the conversation. Okay. The backpack that he knows that he had, okay, and that he threw away. Okay. So this is the first time law enforcement sees evidence of consciousness of relationship from the suspect to the backpack, because it is conscious up here. He knows that backpack has a significance of some sort to this case. And the reason he knows it is because he's the one that threw it in the garbage. So what he does is he disassociates himself by connecting it back to her and saying she was busy searching through her backpack for something. Well, what was the something that he threw away? The something he threw away was her computer, which was in that backpack. Okay.
And her math book.
And her math book.
And her one white Croc shoe.
So why would this be a significant event in the last thing you see her doing in your mirror? Okay. In your mirror, just to tell the police, this is so important. I need to tell you, the last time I saw her in the mirror, she was going through her backpack searching for something. Okay. And, you know, in an interview process, this is gold, because that's where you can have the photograph of her backpack and put that in front of him and say, you know, Stephan, just out of curiosity, is this the backpack you saw her going through? And let him deny or confirm it. If he denies it, then you now own him. Because then you can follow it up with, well, you know, we found this in the trash, et cetera, and you can run with this. And to your point, Karen, so I carried on with my day. Okay. This wasn't her day and him dropping her off at school. Okay. This was an interruption of his day that he had to take her to school. Again.
Now, this is, we didn't know this at the time, but at the time he wrote this, he had already allegedly killed her.
Correct.
Strangled her. Okay. Less than 24 hours after that happened, right? It's sometime in that day. Maybe it's a 12-hour time frame. He's writing down, so I carried on with my day.
Yeah. We go back to the trash analogy again. Great point. She is already gone. She's gone. And this is his disassociation with what he's done. And this ties into his phone call with his parents. And if you haven't heard that phone call, go listen to the phone call. It's in our playlist. It's uninterrupted. We didn't talk or anything in it. We just played it. But that is a great point, Karen, because here he has just done this. Yeah, I just strangled her. You know,
killed her and dumped her.
Yeah.
Killed her and dumped her.
Yeah, because see, he lost the ability to humanize her.
Mm-hmm. And somebody made the point in chat, great point. He never even mentions Maddie by name in his statement to police.
Great point.
He mentions Jen, and Jen mentions in her statement her daughter once, I believe. So Maddie's name is nowhere near this, consciously or subconsciously.
Absolutely great point. Great point. So I carried on with my day. By the way, that's a very selfish statement. Okay. Because he's writing about her missing. But his concern, to your point, is, well, it's about my day. Okay. And so where does he go in the next descriptive line here? I stopped by a nearby vape shop, but it was closed, as if it was a disappointment. So I went home and left about an hour or so later to check the shop again. Okay. Amazing. It was open, so I bought my vape, juice, and returned home. Relaxed with blank for a while. So, to your point earlier, he's already killed her. And he's relaxing.
And he's carrying on with his day like it's no big deal. Any other day that this guy, unemployed, going to a vape shop, contributing nothing to society, doing horrible, disgusting stuff to Maddie and potentially maybe others, killing her. Just another day.
Later went out in the afternoon for a few, what's that word? I can't make that one out. More errands?
Yeah, something
more
errands.
errands. And returned home around 2:30. So this is so impersonal. This is nothing here, nothing to see here. This is just, hey, would you do me a favor? Yeah, write out what took place. Okay. And you can see in this statement here that there is no emotion connected to this statement. Absolutely none. There's no indication of love, no indication of concern, no indication of humility, no indication of fear, no indication of over emphasis of we have to find her. Okay. This is a true psychopath and somebody that is past feeling. There is no feeling in this. And you get the same verbiage in the phone call of how this presents itself.
And in that phone call, the fathers and the mother are talking to him, and he's like, "Oh, I had a really crappy birthday." And it's like, well, they're seeking the death penalty because you allegedly murdered this girl. I mean, there's such a disconnect between reality. Hey, you're in jail. You're not getting out. You're not going home. And, what this guy is talking about.
Well, what's interesting about that, to your
chilling.
point,
It's crazy.
yeah, to your point, Karen, what's interesting about that, right? They say it goes down the leash, right? About dogs and animals, right? The handlers. Okay. What's the same thing for parenting? Okay. The disassociation, the disconnect. Okay. Hon, I'm glad I'm hearing you, and the father kind of hinting towards, well, if you would have told me, I would have kind of, lined you up with an attorney kind of principle in that call. Okay. Which I think there's a lot more behind that door and the curtain, and, follow that yellow brick road, because at some point the wizard's going to show himself. Okay. There's a lot more going on in that one. This is the items inside of the house, the hampers, strawberry shortcake, etc. And the police department's trying to personalize the victim here by recovering all these various types of animals or items. Well, we're not seeing this in this report here. So I'm going to jump over to item number 4.
We're going to go to page 434. It's the evidence checkout. And there were a few surprising things on this list. There you go, right there. Okay. So this is Kissimmee. I always say that name of that city wrong. Kissimmee Police Department. What stood out at me is down at the bottom where there's a couple of red X's right there. Suspected crack cocaine. Okay. And then marijuana, 21 grams. Okay. We can actually keep going. Go to page 436. Okay. So this is a continuation of this evidence list. And I'm seeing on page 436, now we've got methamphetamine right there. Meth, 0.6 grams. You see that, Chris?
Somebody's cracking.
And again,
yeah,
plastic baggie with suspected cocaine. So talk to us about what's your thought about this being recovered as evidence.
So, and crushed blue pill, which could have been fentanyl, which is, possible. Right? What is the crushed blue pill? They sent it to the lab to get it checked out, but it sounds like they've got meth, 0.6 grams. They got marijuana, and up here, what did you show? Oh, it's crack. Yeah, so somebody's crack-a-lacking here.
Suspected crack cocaine. Now, I would imagine a big police department in a very busy part of Florida, they're probably not off. I mean, it's probably not going to be like, baby aspirin. Am I right?
Yeah. If it's a blue tab, it could be, what they call 30s. Mm-hmm. Could be fentanyl. Let's find out. I'm digging into the reports here to see if the lab reports. Did we get the lab reports? Do we know?
I don't believe we have them back in here.
Okay. So let's keep an eye on that so we can report back to everybody if we find it. This is disturbing. Because they've pulled DNA, and they sent it through into CODIS for DNA profiles. But here, how do they attribute it to the suspect? It's attached to him. It's her neck. They're pulling DNA on her hands from her body. Okay? From her body, part of her body, attributed to the suspect. Okay? So they're tying it to him.
What do you mean by that?
Well, they're saying that we got this, okay, item number 1642339. Where did we get it? From her body. Okay, so they're putting this all into CODIS, and they want to know, what's the attachment here? How do we acknowledge the attachment here? Okay. And here, this is a SA missing homicide. So we have indication that there's some serious allegations going to come in even further. All swab and fingernail clippings from the autopsy, that's what it's going to say, are to be compared to Stephan Sterns' buccal swab, i.e., from his private parts. And then when attributed, we're acknowledging that these items came from, where's this item going to be? It's attached to him, i.e., that swab came from that dude. What about this one here, number 35? That came from her neck. Her neck. Okay. I.e., if he strangled her manually. Okay. Her hand. Does she have his DNA underneath her fingernails where she was maybe fighting back? You know, the propensity a lot of times in a homicide involving strangulation is the victim will grab, you know, the choke, and a lot of times you can get under the fingernails that those skin, you know, cells underneath the victim, and they're scratching. So here they're attributing number 237 from her hand. This one's 6236 or 238 is from her body. And then from her body, 239, 240. I want to see what these are. Okay, 236 is her left hand. It's a swab from her left hand. 237, we know what that says. 238, we know what that says. 239 is from her private upper part. 240 is from her mouth at the all of these were collected at the autopsy. Okay, all of this information here was collected at the autopsy, and now they're sending it out. Okay, and they're going to pull. I'm reading all this, sorry. From the buccal swabs, fingernails, see the fingernail scrapings, 231 and 232, but this is probably hers. Okay, and so what they're trying to do, let me see, 218. So I'm going to see 218. 218 is a swab. Well, where did it come from? 215. Eight 6 896. Sorry, guys. I'm going to make sure that we're all tracking correctly here. 218 right there. Okay, well, there you go. That tells us where it came from, his privates. Okay, and down here they acknowledge 218, it's attached to him. I love it. Oh, that's great. Good stuff. Okay. You know, the lab is like, well, how do we know? Dude, it's attached to him. It's his. Trust us. Okay, for the court later on. This is heartbreaking. It's just absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. Okay, where do we want to go, hon?
Well, the next one we're going to go to is page 445. This is it's just a supplemental report that one of the deputies who was on scene when Maddie's body was found. Now, I just thought that it's, you know, we can read it, we can read through it. Again, it just goes to what we're talking about. I mean, it's just absolutely heartbreaking. And then it talks about how her body was found. Do you want to read this, or do you just want me to read that one paragraph where it talks about it?
Which paragraph is it?
Um,
We
I
approach
mean,
the area.
yeah, I mean, you could even start in the second paragraph where it says a witness arrived at the location with information about observing the suspect in the case on Hickory Tree Road, changing a tire. We already know that. And then I think it's the next paragraph where it says, and again, this is just what the deputy is saying, that she observes a gate on the right side of the road. It had area of gravel and dirt. Behind the fence was a box. Is that like a lock box, a Conex box in the field?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And had an area of grass in front of it on the left side. Again, she's given a lot of detail. Behind the fenced area were bales of hay to the right as you enter the property, and bamboo trees both on the right and left side. And this is about 16:30 hours, so that is about 4:30 p.m. The day was sunny and clear. So then they talk about they got permission from the property owner who comes out, and he has somebody open the gate. And then I'm on the paragraph where it says Sergeant Swan and I entered the open gate on the left-hand side of the roadway and proceeded to walk to the right where the bales of hay. There were 2 rows of bales of hay. So she's talking about this. And then she's talking about she walked toward the bamboo trees located on the left, opposite of where the bales of hay were. As I approached the tree line, I observed something blue among the greenery on the ground. As I approached closer to the area, I could see the outline of looked like blue jeans and the stitching on the back pockets of blue jeans. As I approached closer, I could see what appeared to be the outline of a small body covered in blue jeans and a greenish top like a sweatshirt with a hood. And then she goes on and saying the body, this is Maddie, was lying on the left side and was somewhat drawn in a fetal position.
Like a fetal position.
Like a fetal position, yeah. There was either hay or dried grass over parts of the body. It was apparent, it was human, blah, blah, blah. As I approached closer, obvious, no signs of life. Insect activity was present. I want to get to that one area. I'll scroll down. Where it talks about Maddie had on a pair of white socks that didn't have any dirt on the bottoms, meaning she was carried and placed down at this location. So.
Yeah. So the reason the detail like this is that is going to be the way in and the way out. So the reason she laid out, I paralleled the hay, etc., is because this is great police work again. You want to make sure that you have one way in and one way out. And she took 4 photographs, and then she sent those photographs immediately back wherever they needed to go, probably obviously to the homicide team, and said, look, we have additional, we believe we found her. Okay. And in this, what's interesting here is, this is just such, and I say this with full purpose of heart, that this is such a difficult situation to know that this was a child whose innocence was taken by this savage. And he, again, is true to form, leaving her out into the open, yet trying to cover her up with some, throwing leaves or whatever. It reminds me of the Delphi girls, where, he threw branches or whatever items over them. And in this case, he's throwing, pieces of hay and garbage on her. And this is exactly, though, how he sees her. And this goes towards everything that we're reading in his statement. It's very consistent. Everything we're hearing from his whiny little voice on the phone calls with his, family members, all of this is very consistent with this guy not having any care for these children. Now think about this. He's got many more, and I'm not going to connect him to, 187, that's the penal code for, you know what, unalive, 187 in California. But this whiner, this loser pretzel boy has nothing inside of him. He's void. He's just an empty shell. It's a container. Nothing inside, nothing there. And think about all the other children that this guy has had contact with. What we haven't seen is what they saw. The horror, the terror, the anger, all of those controlling power emotions that were sprung out onto these kids. This guy is leaving us with a lot of questions, but ultimately it will come out. It will come out. Where do I need to go from here, Karen?
To that point, let's go to 475, page 475. We heard this before. This is a statement Sterns made to police when they interviewed him. And it's like the first paragraph on 475. I'll wait to get there. To your point, and again, I think it's so infuriating. It's worth talking about to have a point. It says, the police is asking him as the interview went on, it's midway down on that middle of that paragraph. As the interview went on, I asked Stephan if Maddie has ever been sexually active with anyone in the past. Stephan stated there was an incident when she was much younger. He said she did something with a phone or camera, but she wasn't scolded for it. She was very young when it happened. Okay. Chris,
okay, wait,
whether or not it's true or not, did you see where it was?
No,
Right.
show that. Read that again, huh?
Okay.
Is
It's
it
in the middle of that
very-
paragraph. It says, as the interview went on, I asked Stephan. It's in the middle of that page.
Okay,
You
I
see
got
that?
it.
Okay. So whether or not, I mean, it doesn't sounds like a lie. It doesn't sound true. Young kids don't know this stuff on their own. And he has said it in these police interviews early on. And it's just such an example of, I mean, it's blaming the victim. It's a lie. And I'm thinking, did he include that? Because if he is found with these horrible images of her at a young age in him, SA, is that what he thinks is going to be some kind of an alibi or an excuse? I mean, it just, again, taking a step back, listen, we know this poor girl has been SA'd by him for a number of years, and this is what he says. I mean, what's your take on it? You've interviewed these monsters your whole career.
Well, again, yeah, this is transferring that blame through power and control to the victim. It's this idea of, had the child not been wearing that bathing suit, I wouldn't have been tempted. It's a total disconnect. And it's the disconnect to the point where, he's looking at her in the mirror. You see, I mean, she's no longer. So she has no value. Their value is only towards their deviancy. And when they get to the place where, something triggered him. Something triggered him. But this account that he's relating here, okay, he's trying to make himself sound like he has a sense of caring. But you notice he transfers it to the victim. Okay. And so this is it's a typical move by these folks that, their past feeling, the victim is only for them. And once they either age out and or you get to a place where they feel that, okay, if they don't take their lives, which in this case he did, which is right up my alley, okay, there's something in his mechanism that triggered him with her. And that maybe she said, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm done. And it went too far and he, killed her. And maybe part of that thrill for him was knowing at some point it would get to that point. And he was prepared to do it, that he didn't snap, that he just did it because he knew at some point I may have to do it with her. Versus another child, who may have aged out. A lot of these guys, they look at the child and they say, if you ever say anything, and they become vicious and they use fear as a control mechanism. And that fear, propels them into years and years later. And then at some point they wake up and they realize, holy cow, the Boy Scout leader had been doing this for forever, hypothetically. But in this situation here, look what he did. He transferred it right back to her, just like he did. Well, the last time I saw her, she was digging through her bag, when he knew darn well she didn't have that bag. He had that bag. He controlled Maddie through that bag. Okay. We may think all he was doing is getting rid of evidence. Well, no, there's more to that. There's more to that. Because she was gone, or else she would have taken that bag with her when she got out of that car. So that means she was not with us when that bag was left in that car. So for him, one of the last pieces of total control was, I'm just going to throw the bag away like I threw her away. And then I'm going to lie about it. Another piece of the puzzle.
Let's go to the next page. And this is a statement from one of the roommates from that Monday morning. And I think it's important to go over. So on page 476, second half of the page, we see one of this police sergeant is interviewing one of the roommates. Go about halfway down that second paragraph. And let me find it.
Went downstairs to make breakfast.
Yes. Yeah. So obviously her name, we don't know their name, stated on that Monday morning, she woke up between 9:30. It says woke up between 9:30 hours. Okay. And something else. It's between is usually two things, and she went downstairs to make breakfast around 10:30. She stated she saw Stephan in the residence at the time. He was acting odd, going up and down stairs and in and out of the apartment that morning. He was also washing clothes, which she has never seen him do. When she left for work at about 15:40, so that would be about 3:40, Stephan was there. I think that's just very revealing that between those hours, around 10:30 in the morning, she sees him basically running around cleaning up. Now, what's interesting is Jen Soto said she would have been awake by 10 or 10:15. So I think this is going to be very important testimony of the roommate.
Yeah, I
Woman's
think you're right.
roommate.
Yeah, that's a really solid point that you've pointed out here, because yeah, he's up and he's going up and up and down doing the laundry that early in the morning. But to your point, where's mom?
Yeah.
What's
Where's Jen? Is she
what?
just out cold, still sleeping? Well, she said she was up by then in her other statements to police. But,
Interesting.
I think that was pretty interesting. Okay, just another couple things. Go to page 478.
Hmm.
And this is where we have witnesses see Stearns on the side of the road with a tire iron. Again, this is just kind of reining in the timeline a little bit more. Let's
Thomas
find
Harris
where that. Yeah, you may find it.
matching the description of Stephan with a tire iron in his hand, standing next to a silver sedan on Hickory Tree Road at approximately
Right,
4 o'clock.
right.
Oh, that's when she contacted him. But he was seen there at approximately 1:20,
1:20 in the afternoon. Yes.
and she provided pictures of where this person was, pointing him out on a map. So they got an eyewitness potentially that sees somebody matching the description of Stephan, holding a tire iron.
Right. Presumably dealing with the tire, the busted tire.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, and then let's go to 486, page
Okay, wait, I
486.
want to go back up real fast to
Okay.
479. Based on the clothing description seen on several videos, the last paragraph, the body did appear to be that of blah, blah, blah. The lock to the farm was still locked and didn't appear to be tampered with. Stephan would have had to drop Madeline's body over the barbed wire fence where the gate was, then move her body to the location where she was found. Okay. Let's see here. Sorry. Responding assistant processing, removal from underneath the dry grass and hay. I was able to identify her by a specific mole in her cheek. Shows sign of decomp on one side of her face, blah, blah, blah. Was wearing a green hoodie over the top of her head, blue jeans and white socks. The bottom socks were clean,
There we
which
go.
indicates she did not walk anywhere. That's correct.
Mhm.
Or the socks would have had dirt on the bottom. So that means she was killed somewhere else. That's what that means.
Mhm.
And that her body was transported there, which is obvious. But the question is, what do they find on the bottom of those socks? Interesting.
Well, they said they were clean. So
Right.
maybe they didn't find anything at the bottom of the socks.
Right. For the outside, vegetation, which is indicative of, somebody obviously walking. So when I initially uncovered, I noticed her socks were clean on the bottom, which confirmed my observation that she was located in St. Cloud during the autopsy, blah, blah, blah. And now it's blacked out. You'd be surprised what you find on clothing. Thomas stated, is there the press, blah, blah, blah. Location of Stephan's vehicle, identified, blah, blah, blah. Identify surrounding trees where blah, blah, blah was found. I asked him if anything stood out about him as he passed by. He had a scared look about him. This is that eyewitness that sees him. He thought he was upset due to the vehicle being broken down on the side of the road. So they've got an eyewitness.
Mm-hmm.
That puts him there.
Yeah, again, pretty solid evidence against this guy. Taken all together.
That's good stuff.
Definitely.
486.
Yeah, let's go to 486. And this is what I mentioned earlier. So apparently he wore a Fitbit. Stephan Sterns wore a Fitbit. So all that electronic data they got And I thought this was really interesting. We can just go through this report. It's, the steps that he did, they're correlating to the timeline of Maddie's murder. And we can go through that. Do you want to read that, Chris?
Yeah, and also these are little coins, parent coins, that new parent decision coins. And Stephan had possibly spoke about conceiving a child. So this is interesting. Are these coins, and that what goes back to the earlier in like the 300 place where they showed those coins, about parenting.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if they're hinting here, they're thinking, hey, is there more to this than we're being led on to here?
Well, this statement says we don't know if it's Maddie or Jen. Sends a text to Stephan saying, "Hey, we need this. Get it for us, please." I don't know if that's Maddie, but it seemed a little kind of out of place. New parent decision coin. I mean, Jen and Stephan's relationship was described as off again, on again, and he left the house back in December. Again, I don't know if we have that much context of the time. Oh, this is back from December 16th at, early hours of the morning. So, but I believe he was still out of the house. He went back to go live with his parents in Northport. I didn't take this as anything dramatically important to the case. I could certainly be wrong. I'm more interested in the part down here when we've got the steps he took based on the Fitbit, downloaded information from the Fitbit. And I think this really tightens this timeline again. And, we can see it says detailed information about the steps he took so this would have been Sunday night at, what is that? From 8:30 in the evening until Monday, the 26th at 4 p.m. And so they're saying that Sunday night, we know that Jen sent Maddie to sleep in the same room and bed as Stephan around 11:30. So that would line up. It says 19 hours. Do you see where that is? And it says he took 9 steps. Or excuse me, that was before. The 19 hours, 31 steps taken and 1 floor climbed matched the time when Jen sent Maddie upstairs with Stephan to go to sleep. Then we don't have anything until the next morning at 7:05 a.m. He's taking 113 steps. And then it goes from there. At 7:15, he's taking 50 steps. And then there's a big time jump at 10:55 a.m. Well, he did a lot of, Maddie was already in the car. He was driving around. He's seen on video multiple places. And it says at 10:55 a.m., 8 steps, which is when Stephan is back at the residence. So that's when he comes back home. And then we've got back at 14:37 hours, 54 steps is when, I guess that would be, one of them would be taking Maddie's phone to her when she left to go pick her up from school. So that would be Jen. Is that how you would read that?
Yeah. Is this Fitbit belong to him, or do we know if it's Jen's?
I had thought that it was his.
Anybody know in the chat?
See. Let me go up to the previous page. One floor climbed, just when she sent. Yeah. Oh, maybe it is Jen's. But why would they collect hers and not his?
Yeah, I don't have the answer to that.
All right, well, I'm gonna find out. I'll get back to you
But,
guys on
but
that.
if it's hers, what is she doing up at 7 in the morning? She said she was sleeping.
Well, and right, and that's why I thought this was his.
Right.
And, early on, I'm gonna have to go through it again. I mean, police subpoenaed Apple to get the Fitbit information. So I
Okay.
was
Folks are
pretty
saying
certain it was his.
that is
Yeah,
Maddie's iPhone from her health app. And if so, that's still
mm.
consistent then.
It couldn't be Maddie's because she wasn't taking any steps in the morning. It's
Right.
either Stefan's or Jen's.
Right.
So we know that. So I'm gonna go back to the, and it's buried a couple hundred pages back of the subpoena for the information. So I will get that. I will double check on that.
Okay. And if it's
So
Maddie's phone, then obviously she's not with us at 2:30 in the afternoon taking 54 steps. So that means somebody has it if that's the case. But if it's his, then yeah, you're right. At 7:05, 7:15, uh, and at 11:19 in the evening, climbing one floor upstairs to go to sleep at 07:05, 113 steps. Is that activity involving his arms? If you're doing this, will that Fitbit count that as a step?
I
Uh,
don't know.
that's a lot. Okay, so the 5 things that you pulled out of this, and we've had everybody here for 2 hours and 26 minutes. So, what are your takeaways, Karen?
I mean, it's really what everybody knows about this case. We've already discussed it. I mean, it's just so, again, we go back to this heartbreaking. It's so heartbreaking, infuriating, maddening that the adults in Maddie's life who were surrounded by her and her mother who was supposed to be protecting her, everybody failed this girl. Everybody failed this girl. And that's what's so tragic about this. Um, we pray for justice for Maddie, and we feel like they have the right guy behind bars. He's going to get 2 trials. They are scheduled to try him in February on all the SA charges. That's first. And then the murder charges, the murder trial is scheduled for September of 2025. And right now, prosecution is seeking the death penalty in this case. So, Chris, what are your final thoughts about this?
Well, there's a lot of information coming in on the last piece here, and I don't have that answer yet either, but there certainly are some good thought processes coming in here. These here's the sad part. This guy is still going to play like he's the victim, and when you hear the phone call and just there's just so many. We didn't even get into this other stuff on page 488 and beyond. I mean, there it shows photographs, very explicit photographs of SA. And it's as if this guy has not lost a beat, and which is very atypical for these guys. So, that said, I just hope and pray that justice will be served. That the way I'm looking at this thing, they've done an amazing job of tying the bow together and presenting this to the district attorney. There's Buddy back there for everybody. Budzo. we should train you to go up inside of the HVAC systems and go after these knuckleheads, get their stuff. Thank goodness we have the technology today that helps us capture these individuals. And, we've got dogs, all kinds of really cool tools to help them. And, good luck in your adventures in jail, because when he's convicted, it's going to be a really bad day for him. But at this point, looks like they've got a tight case. I love the sunshine law in Florida. And I hope Maddie gets justice from her side, from the other side of the veil. She can watch this whole thing, if that's how it works. So, any final words, Karen?
We're just praying for justice for Maddie at this point.
And thank you again, everybody, for being with us tonight. We are always grateful, and continue to take care of each other. Have a great week. See you on the next one. Aloha.
Good night.
Hard working every day, I'm stressed out 24/7, babe. No timeouts, wish we could fly away. You and I go to our favorite place. Oh yeah, make special memories together. I'll be your company now and forever. I say we fly away, you and me, go to our favorite place. Feeling the sun on my face in Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. I need a summer breeze, some fresh air to put my mind at ease. No cares. You wanna come with me? Me and you go to our favorite tree. Are you ready now? We jump on a plane now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. Don't hesitate now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. We'll never come